Hey Griffin, it's Friday, which is a day late, but day late, a dollar short. I've been having some phone issues recently, so this is like the third phone I've used like in the last 5 days. Yes, third phone in the last 5 days. So I couldn't make you a video last night. Didn't want to put in the effort to make a video last night. So I have lots of things to respond to you for, but I'm just gonna tell you one thing now, and I'll do the other videos later. So I have not been doing well mental health wise since moving to Maine, and then I have been looking forward to counseling, and I finally got good health insurance that would afford me counseling. So I scheduled an appointment for this last Thursday, and I was looking forward to it, probably since July. And then I went, and it was the worst counseling experience of my life. So I've only had two counselors before, and I've kind of lucked into them being great. And I, met with them, and I'm like, oh, this will work. And it just kind of was like, it worked. And I'm like, oh, either I'm really easy going, and I just work with counselors, or I just got lucky 2 times in a row. I got lucky 2 times in a row. So, hands. First, I get there, uh, and like she's like, all right, I need you to fill out this paperwork. I'm like, okay, that's fine. She's like, yeah, we do payments first, and I was like, that's fine. I mean, I could just run away from here and never pay you. So like that makes sense. And then we start. And so I give these professionals a lot of, you know, I think leeway because I think I respect the profession, especially like a clinical psychologist with a PhD. So I think I definitely like lend myself to like, yeah, you're the expert in this in the room right now. And so I think oftentimes I'm just like, oh, they're getting at something really deep right now, and then sometimes you peek behind that and you're like, no, they're not. So we're going through it and we start off and she's like, oh, tell me about yourself. So I start describing, I'm like, oh, she's like, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I've moved around my whole life. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because my parents wanted to move as a child because I was a dependent. I don't make choices. 4 year olds don't pick where they live. So I'm like, oh, whatever. And then I'm talking a little bit more about myself and what I've done with my life and who I am. And then at some point she stops and says, what is your ethnic background? And I'll be honest, it caught me off guard at first, which it really shouldn't because it's a question I get at least once a week in Maine. However, she phrased it better than the what are you or the what nationality are you? Well, those aren't the questions they want answered. And it took me by surprise, and I was like, oh, well, and I even mentioned, like, oh, I shouldn't be surprised if people ask all the time. And I'm like, I'm black. And she's like, well, what do you mean people ask you all the time? I'm like, people ask frequently what I am because I'm not white and it confuses them. And she's like, do they think you're Hispanic? I'm like, some do. Some go with Polynesian or Middle Eastern. I'm all over the place. I get lots of, suggested races. And she's like, okay. And she's like, so you're black? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, so both of your parents are black? And I'm like, oh, no, my father's black and my mother's white. She's like, oh. So I thought that was biracial. And I'm like, so can you explain that a little? I'm like, well, that is something that some people go by. Like, some people are biracial. When I was younger, that's how I identified. I now identify as black. And she's like, well, tell me more. I'm like, well, I mean, it's definitely the more prominent race. That's how I present, and also, I mean, from a historic standpoint, like, it's kind of if there's some black in you, you're black. Like you, it's not like the hey, whoa, hey, sir, with the whip there. My great grandma was white. You don't get to whip me. It's the other way around. So you're a little black. You're black. And I went into that a little bit, and then she asked the question, how dark is your father? And I'll be honest, that was the point where I'm just like, I didn't really know what to say. I'd never been asked the question, how dark is my father? And I just sit there and think, and my first response was like not Wesley Snipes black, but darker than a Key and Peele. So I was like, darker. And she's like, oh, okay, because you're rather light. I'm like, yeah, I did know I'm not the black. I don't have the blackest skin tone. So by this point in time, I'm pretty done with the conversation. Just like, what are we like? Where is this? This is not anything that I brought up to talk to you about. My racial identity really not, my biggest concern or even close to it. And it kind of it definitely crossed the line from I am curious about you and want to get to know you so I can best serve you and more. I am a white person who lives in Maine surrounded by white people and might not know any or few people of color, and so I'm going to have my patients pay me for sessions where I will learn about other cultures through them. So, yeah. And then the session kept going on. I talked about depression and how I'm very lonely in Maine and how I haven't made a lot of friends. And then she kept going back to like, oh, well, we got to get you some friends. So like, what have you done to make friends? And I'm like, oh, I do roller derby. And she's like, what's roller derby? And I'm like, it's a sport. Google it. This is not what I'm here. I'm not here to teach you things. This is not I had to go into explaining roller derby for my 45-minute session, which I'll be honest, kind of felt a little short. Like 50, give me 50, 10 minutes for the other stuff, 10 minutes to take notes and stuff. 15, you don't need that. Not that interesting. Just spending time on unnecessary areas, and then I'm just like, oh well, what have you tried to do to make friends? I'm like, I don't know. I just started roller derby, but it's more of an issue if I feel uncomfortable talking to people or starting conversations or reaching out. Like it's me not knowing how to do that. Like I'm at a place where I can't do that anymore, and just was all yeah. And I talked about Rachel has some friends here, and we've hung out with them and their partners, and as I was leaving, she's like, well, you just gotta reach out to people and try to. Those friends of Rachel's, you should really reach out to them. I'm like, oh, I invite them to hang out probably like once every like 2-3 weeks. Like I like that's an area where I put in the work and try to hang out with people who I enjoy spending time with, but they're usually busy or don't respond at all. It's mostly they don't respond at all. So like that's an area where that's not the problem. And it was just over and over, just like I don't know, like touching on symptoms and trying to just really missing the mark on so many things. It was bad. It was the only time I've left counseling like just feeling just like shitty, not in a like, oh, that was really rough. That was raw. There's a lot of emotions that I processed. It was just like I'm just annoyed. Sorry, my arms are so tired. It didn't go well, and there's part of me that's just like I don't want to go to counseling again. Like that was terrible. And I think the worst part is like I think so much of where I've been at is like hoping that I've got this in the other end, and not. I guess maybe I've been putting too many of my eggs in one basket, but like, hey, counseling's worked so well for me in the past. I've gotten a lot out of it. It's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm gonna, have someone to help guide me through this process of, working through my own problems. And it's just not what it was. It was bad. And I was genuinely mad. I'm still pretty mad if you want to know. I'm pretty mad right now. I'm mad at Maine. I'm mad at that shitty counselor. I'm not so much mad at myself, but I'm more like I feel like I need to like will myself into being better out of spite. So yeah, I want to take a look at one of those clinical
cognitive therapy,
cognitive behavioral workbooks. Thanks, Red. Miss overhearing things. This isn't your thing.
Sorry.
You see that vein down the middle of my forehead? Let's get that back. There it is. So I sound like I'm doing well, and I'm doing great, but I'm also super mad. I love you, and goodbye. And I'll make you more videos. I just rage. How dark is your father?